going on, everybody? Welcome back to the BTR Garage. My name is Justin. Today we have a few things going on to my 2022 Toyota GR86. We're going to be installing ARP wheel studs. We have some Muteki wheel spacers as well, and also Muteki lug nuts to go on the car. Let's go ahead and get started. So why are we installing ARP wheel studs on the car? Well, a few reasons. The OEM wheel studs that are on the car are pretty fragile. They're known for breaking or shearing off when you are torquing them. This could be due to just over torquing them, or they become weak after extended performance driving or track driving, autocross, etc. when they're under a lot of load. We're going to install the ARP wheel studs much stronger, plus they're a lot longer, which allows us to put spacers on the car to kind of fine tune the fitment of the wheels, or allow for more spacing if you put a big brake kit on the car, and just gives you a lot more options when it comes to wheels and wheel fitment with those extended studs. So taking a look at all of the parts and tools that we're going to need, of course, we have the ARP extended wheel studs. We have a Muteki 12mm spacer. This is a pair of spacers. I actually have 4 of them. We're going to try these out on the front as well as the back, see if we can improve that OEM fitment on the car. We have Muteki lug nuts. I'm a big fan of the Muteki stuff. I had this on my 2017 BRZ as well. So a set of extended length lug nuts and extended thread lug nuts. Those are great to use when you do have the extended studs. And we also have a set of Muteki locking lug nuts. So these are the same thing. They just have the keyed locking lug, which I'll put on each of the tires for a little more security. Then from a tools perspective, we have this very nice wheel stud remover tool. I actually used this on my 2017 BRZ when we showed you how to do this. This will make removing the wheel studs much easier, so you don't need to use a hammer, smack the wheel studs out. You can just use this tool and it simply pushes them right through. And then a new specialty tool that I got for this installation is this wheel stud installer. So this is a little piece. You can kind of see a cylindrical looking tool that allows you to press the wheel studs back into the hub on the car. The old way of doing this, or I guess the cheaper way of doing this, is to use a stack of washers and then squeeze the wheel stud into the hub. But this particular tool makes that process much easier. You don't need to use the washer approach. So we'll go ahead and get started, getting the car up in the air on the quick jack. Obviously, if you don't have a quick jack, you can simply jack up one side of the car at a time. We obviously have to take apart a bit of the front end, including the brake pad removal, the caliper removal, and ultimately the rotor removal. All of this comes apart with just a few bolts, 2 bolts on the back of the caliper, which will hang up out of the way so it's safe. Stick the rotor aside, and then we can go ahead and get started with popping out the OEM studs. Simply take your ball joint puller, attach it as shown in the video, and then use an impact driver on the nuts to crank it down and pop the stud out the back. And really, that's all there is to it when it comes to removing the wheel studs. Repeat the process for the remaining OEM studs till you get them all popped out. And we're going to grab our new 3-inch long ARP wheel stud, slide it through the back of the hub, and then grab our wheel stud installation tool. The bearing face goes down so that your conical wheel lug nut actually seats into the back of the tool. Grab your impact driver and snug it up, and then hold the wheel hub in place and start cranking away on the tool. And at that point, your wheel stud will start getting pulled through the back of the hub and seat into the hub itself. Once the wheel stud is fully seated in the hub, you can back off the wheel lug nut and then move on to the next one and repeat the process for each wheel stud in the hub. We'll flip the camera around and give you a better viewpoint of the wheel stud going into the back of the hub. You'll be able to see the wheel stud itself bottom out on the back. We'll zoom the camera in here and give you a good view of it getting pulled into the back of the hub, like so. And like I said, once it bottoms out, you're good to go and back off the lug nut and move on to the next one. Throughout this process, I recommend using the same wheel lug nut for every one of these and use it across all the wheels, because what's going to happen is that lug nut is going to get pretty marred up just from the excessive ratcheting from the impact driver, you're going to mess up the edges of it and might even strip it a little bit. Mine got pretty worn out by the end of the day. As you can kind of see, the edges are a little bit worn there. So use one and just plan on disposing it at the end of the day. At this point, we can start putting things back together, getting our disc rotor back in place, our caliper mounts in place as well, with the bolts on the back being torqued to 59 foot-pounds of torque for each of the 2 bolts. We'll reinstall our brake pads, of course, and the brake caliper bolt on the back as well. Then we're going to grab our Muteki 12mm spacer. Simply slide that over the new wheel studs. It's a Hub Centric Spacer, so it just pops right over the existing hub. Reinstall our wheel. And of course, our new Muteki extended length open-ended lug nuts. These lug nuts are extended length, which helps to protect the threads on the new ARP wheel studs. Give you a little idea of what this looks like with the new wheel lugs and the spacer from a side view, and we'll kick into a before and after view of the spacers. So left is obviously OEM fitment, the right is the 12mm spacer fitment, filling out the wheel well a good bit better there on the right side. And then we have a little video as well where we'll show you the OEM fitment. Obviously that wheel tucked into the wheel well doesn't look too great. Bring it out with a 12mm spacer, and we got a little bit better look there. Probably could have used a 15mm spacer, but here's how that front fitment looks in action. Much better than OEM. So there we go, ARP wheel studs and the Muteki spacers and lug nuts installed. I feel like the spacers improved the OEM look just a little bit, kind of flush out those wheels and tires a little bit out of those wheel wells. And of course, with the ARP wheel studs, we have a lot more durability and longevity when it comes to the wheel studs on the car. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope the video was helpful. If you have any thoughts or comments, please leave them down below like always. And if you have not done already, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications if you want to see all the latest content for my 2022 GR86. Stick around, we got more good stuff coming up. Stay safe out there. I am checking out. We'll talk to you all next time.